Oysters have shaped the very fabric of America's coastal history, their story woven into the nation's earliest settlements and enduring traditions. Long before European colonists arrived, indigenous peoples along the Atlantic and Gulf coasts relied on oysters as a staple food source, leaving behind vast shell middens that still mark the landscape today. These ancient heaps are silent witnesses to centuries of sustainable harvest, community gatherings, and reverence for the bounty of the sea. As European settlers established colonies, oysters quickly became a cornerstone of local economies and diets. By the 19th century, bustling ports like New York, New Orleans, and Baltimore were renowned for their oyster markets, with fleets of skipjacks and tongas harvesting millions of bushels each year from the Chesapeake Bay, the Gulf of Mexico, and beyond. The oyster industry's economic impact has been profound. In the late 1800s, oysters were so abundant and affordable that they were known as the poor man's protein, fueling urban growth and feeding working-class families. Today, the industry is valued at over $500 million annually, supporting tens of thousands of jobs across harvesting, processing, distribution, and hospitality. Watermen, those rugged individuals who rise before dawn to work the tides, are the backbone of this industry. Their knowledge, passed down through generations, is matched only by their resilience in the face of storms, shifting regulations, and environmental change. Beyond the water's edge, armies of shuckers, processors, restaurateurs, and distributors keep the oyster supply chain moving. In processing plants, skilled hands open thousands of shells a day, while chefs and servers introduce new generations to the briny, complex flavors of fresh oysters. In small towns and cities alike, oysters anchor local economies. They support not just direct jobs, but also tourism, festivals, and a sense of place that is inseparable from the rhythms of the tide. Ecologically, oysters are nothing short of miraculous. Their reefs, once stretching for miles along the eastern and Gulf coasts, have provided natural breakwaters, buffering shorelines from erosion and storm surges. These living structures are among the most productive habitats on Earth, rivaling coral reefs in their ability to support marine life. Oysters are natural water purifiers. Each adult oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of water per day, removing excess nutrients, algae, and suspended sediments. This filtration improves water clarity, supports the growth of underwater grasses, and creates healthier conditions for fish, crabs, and other marine species. The cumulative effect of millions of oysters working in concert is transformative, turning murky estuaries into vibrant, life-filled waterscapes. Their shells, layered over decades, form complex three-dimensional habitats that shelter juvenile fish, blue crabs, shrimp, and countless other creatures. These reefs are nurseries for the next generation of marine life, providing food, shelter, and protection from predators. The loss or degradation of oyster reefs has ripple effects throughout the ecosystem, reducing biodiversity and weakening the resilience of coastal environments. Scientists now recognize oyster populations as a key indicator of coastal health. Where oysters thrive, so too do fish, birds, and other wildlife. Where they decline, the entire ecosystem suffers. The presence of robust oyster beds signals clean water, abundant life, and a balanced marine environment. Their decline, conversely, often points to pollution, overharvesting, or habitat destruction. Culturally, oysters are woven into the identity of coastal America. From the earliest colonial feasts to today's lively festivals, they have brought people together in celebration and sustenance. Oyster festivals, some dating back over a century, draw crowds from far and wide. These gatherings feature shucking contests, culinary competitions, and music, all centered around the humble bivalve. The art of shucking is a rite of passage in many families, with skills and stories handed down from parent to child. For many, the first oyster opened is a moment of pride and connection to generations past. Recipes for oyster stew, Rockefeller, and chowder are treasured family heirlooms, each with its own secret twist and history. These dishes are more than food, they are a link to heritage and memory. Sharing oysters, whether at a beach picnic or a bustling oyster bar, is a social ritual that connects people to the sea and to each other. The briny taste of a fresh oyster is a direct link to the ocean's pulse. Oysters have become enduring symbols of maritime resilience and ingenuity. Their shells, often adorned with local art or tattoos, are tokens of a life lived by the tides. Lighthouses and oyster boats at dawn evoke a sense of continuity and hope. Yet, this rich heritage is now at a crossroads. Oyster farmers and watermen face mounting challenges, from overharvesting and habitat loss to pollution and disease. The anxiety is palpable as they watch the waters change, and their livelihoods hang in the balance. Climate change is accelerating these threats. Rising sea temperatures, ocean acidification, and more frequent storms are altering the delicate balance that oysters depend on. Digital maps now track the spread of warming waters, revealing new vulnerabilities in once stable oyster beds. Pollution and runoff cloud the water, while new pathogens and harmful bacteria thrive in the changing conditions. Warning signs and murky waters are becoming more common, signaling a new era of uncertainty for oyster growers and consumers alike. Scientists are racing to understand and combat these threats. Microscopic bacteria, once rare, are now flourishing in warmer waters, posing risks to both oysters and the people who eat them. Laboratories across the country are testing and monitoring, searching for solutions to safeguard this vital resource. In response, the oyster industry is embracing innovation. New farming techniques, improved water monitoring, and collaborative research are offering hope. Diverse teams of oyster farmers are working together, determined to adapt and preserve this legacy for future generations. From historic schooners to cutting-edge aquaculture, America's oyster heritage is a story of adaptation, resilience, and the enduring bond between people and the sea. As the challenges mount, so too does the resolve to protect and restore this irreplaceable treasure, ensuring that oysters remain a vital part of our history, economy, and environment for centuries to come. Beneath the shimmering surface of our coastal waters, an invisible menace is quietly gaining ground. This threat is not a new arrival, but a microscopic resident whose influence is growing with each passing year. Meet Vibrio vulnificus, a naturally occurring bacterium that thrives in warm, brackish seawater. Under the microscope, it appears as a curved, rod-shaped organism, equipped with a whip-like flagellum that allows it to move swiftly through its aquatic environment. Unlike many bacteria, Vibrio vulnificus is halophilic, meaning it requires salt to survive, making coastal and estuarine waters its ideal habitat. Historically, Vibrio vulnificus was largely restricted to the balmy, stable temperatures of the Gulf of Mexico and the southern Atlantic coast. Here, the water's warmth and salinity provided the perfect conditions for the bacterium to flourish, but its range was limited by the natural boundaries of cooler northern waters. Today, however, the story is changing. Driven by a rapidly warming climate, ocean temperatures are rising at an unprecedented pace. This shift is not just a matter of a few degrees, it is a fundamental transformation of marine ecosystems, altering the balance of life beneath the waves. As the average temperature of coastal waters increases, regions that were once inhospitable to Vibrio vulnificus are now becoming suitable environments. The bacterium's range is expanding, and with it, the risk to both marine life and humans. In recent years, scientists have documented a striking northward migration of Vibrio vulnificus along the United States coastline. Once rarely seen beyond the Carolinas, the bacterium has now been detected as far north as Connecticut and even New England. This expansion is not just a curiosity. It is a warning sign of how quickly pathogens can adapt to a changing world. The primary engine behind this spread is climate change. As polar ice melts and global temperatures rise, the oceans absorb much of this excess heat. Warmer waters accelerate the metabolism and reproduction of Vibrio vulnificus, allowing populations to explode during the summer months. Even a modest increase in water temperature, just a few degrees, can dramatically boost the growth rate of Vibrio vulnificus. In these warmer conditions, the bacteria multiply rapidly, reaching concentrations that pose a significant threat to both marine organisms and humans who come into contact with contaminated water or seafood. But temperature is not the only factor fueling this rise. Human activity has introduced another variable: pollution. Runoff from agriculture, industry, and urban areas carries nutrients, especially nitrogen and phosphorus, into coastal waters. These nutrients act as a fertilizer, not just for algae, but for bacteria like Vibrio vulnificus. Algal blooms, often visible as green or red tides, can further deplete oxygen and disrupt marine ecosystems, but they also signal an environment rich in organic matter, perfect for bacterial proliferation. Oysters, the silent sentinels of our coastal waters, play a crucial role in this story. As filter feeders, they draw in gallons of water each day, extracting plankton and organic particles for nourishment. In the process, they also accumulate whatever else is present, including Vibrio vulnificus. The bacteria can concentrate within the oyster's tissues, turning these shellfish into reservoirs of infection. For humans, the consequences of encountering Vibrio vulnificus can be dire. The bacterium is not only adept at surviving in the marine environment, but it is also highly virulent when it enters the human body. The most common route of infection is through the consumption of raw or undercooked oysters. When a person eats contaminated shellfish, the bacteria can quickly invade the digestive tract and in some cases cross into the bloodstream. Early symptoms often resemble those of food poisoning: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and severe abdominal pain. These signs can appear within hours of ingestion, sometimes catching victims off guard. However, Vibrio vulnificus is far more dangerous than typical foodborne pathogens. In vulnerable individuals, the infection can escalate rapidly, overwhelming the body's defenses and leading to septicemia, a life-threatening condition where bacteria multiply in the bloodstream. Septicemia caused by Vibrio vulnificus is characterized by fever, chills, dangerously low blood pressure, and the risk of multi-organ failure. Without prompt medical intervention, the mortality rate can be alarmingly high, sometimes exceeding 50% in severe cases. Certain groups are especially at risk. People with weakened immune systems, chronic liver disease, diabetes, or other underlying health conditions are far more susceptible to severe infection. For them, even a minor exposure can have catastrophic consequences. In the most extreme cases, Vibrio vulnificus can cause necrotizing fasciitis, a rapidly progressing flesh-eating infection. The bacteria release toxins that destroy skin, muscle, and connective tissue, sometimes requiring amputation or resulting in death within just 24 hours of exposure. The impact of this growing threat extends beyond individual health. The specter of Vibrio vulnificus has cast a shadow over the oyster industry, an industry that has long been a cornerstone of coastal economies and culinary traditions. Once a symbol of celebration and indulgence, raw oysters are now viewed with caution. Consumers are increasingly aware of the risks, especially during the warmer months when bacterial concentrations peak. Oyster harvesters and seafood processors are under mounting pressure to ensure the safety of their products. The trust between producer and consumer, built over generations, is now being tested by the invisible threat lurking in the water. For the $500 million oyster industry, the rise of Vibrio vulnificus is not just a public health emergency, it is an existential crisis. Outbreaks can lead to recalls, closures, and devastating economic losses for coastal communities. This situation forces a difficult reckoning. How can we continue to enjoy oysters, a food so deeply woven into our culture, while protecting public health? The answer is not simple, and it demands innovation, vigilance, and a willingness to adapt. The future of oyster consumption may depend on revolutionary changes in how these shellfish are harvested, processed, and delivered. From advanced water monitoring and rapid bacterial testing to new post-harvest treatments, the industry is racing to stay ahead of a microscopic adversary that is evolving with the climate itself. The oyster industry stands at a pivotal crossroads, facing unprecedented challenges from the rise of Vibrio vulnificus and other harmful bacteria. In response, a sweeping transformation has taken place, ushering in a new era defined by science-driven safety protocols, advanced technology, and robust regulatory oversight. Today, every stage of the oyster's journey, from the moment it leaves the water to its arrival on your plate, is governed by a complex web of measures designed to protect public health and restore consumer confidence. The transformation begins at the water's edge. Modern harvesters are now required to follow strict time and temperature controls, treating oysters as highly perishable products. Regulations mandate that oysters must be harvested during specific windows, often in the early morning or late evening, to minimize exposure to heat. Once collected, the oysters are immediately transferred into insulated containers, where they are either packed in ice or submerged in chilled seawater to rapidly lower their temperature. This immediate cooling is not just a best practice, it is a legal requirement in many states, enforced by both state and federal agencies. The goal is to halt the proliferation of Vibrio and other bacteria, which can multiply rapidly in warm conditions. By bringing the temperature down within a tightly regulated time frame, harvesters dramatically reduce the risk of contamination. To ensure compliance, digital thermometers and time-tracking devices are now standard equipment on harvesting vessels. These instruments provide real-time data, allowing workers to monitor and record the precise conditions under which oysters are handled. Any deviation from the prescribed temperature or time limits can trigger immediate corrective action, and in some cases, the destruction of the entire batch. Traceability has become a cornerstone of oyster safety. Every sack of oysters is tagged with a unique identifier, creating a digital and physical record that follows the product through every stage of the supply chain. These tags, often equipped with QR codes or barcodes, contain detailed information about the harvest, including the precise location of the oyster bed, the date and time of harvest, and the water temperature at the moment the oysters were collected. This data is logged into centralized databases accessible to regulators, distributors, and retailers. The harvest bed location is critical, as it allows for rapid identification of environmental risks or contamination events tied to specific regions. The date and time of harvest are meticulously recorded, ensuring that oysters are not kept beyond safe holding periods and that any issues can be traced to a specific moment in the supply chain. Water temperature data is especially important as it directly correlates with bacterial growth rates. This information enables both regulators and scientists to monitor environmental trends and respond proactively to emerging threats. The result is a transparent, end-to-end tracking system. Distributors and restaurants can scan tags to verify the origin and handling of each batch, while consumers benefit from unprecedented accountability and peace of mind. In the event of a foodborne illness outbreak, this traceability system allows health officials to pinpoint the source of contamination within hours, not days. Rapid recalls can be issued, affected products removed from circulation, and further illnesses prevented. This level of responsiveness marks a dramatic improvement over past decades, when tracing the origin of contaminated oysters was often slow and imprecise. For oysters harvested from areas with elevated risk, such as warmer waters or regions with known bacterial presence, additional post-harvest processing steps are mandated. These include advanced purification techniques that go far beyond traditional washing or rinsing. High-pressure processing, or HPP, is at the forefront of these innovations. In this process, oysters are placed in a sealed chamber and subjected to pressures up to 87,000 psi. This intense pressure destroys harmful bacteria, including Vibrio species, while leaving the oyster's delicate texture and flavor intact. Unlike heat-based methods, HPP does not cook the oyster, preserving the raw experience that many consumers prize. HPP-treated oysters are clearly labeled and increasingly sought after by restaurants and retailers, especially during the summer months when bacterial risks are highest. This technology has enabled the safe consumption of raw oysters from regions that were once considered too dangerous for harvest. Regulatory agencies, including the FDA and state health departments, have established rigorous standards for HPP and other post-harvest processes. Facilities must undergo regular inspections, and products are routinely tested for bacterial contamination before they reach the market. The integration of immediate cooling, comprehensive tagging, and advanced processing represents a holistic approach to oyster safety. Each step is carefully monitored, documented, and enforced through a combination of industry self-regulation and government oversight. Industry-wide training programs have been launched to educate workers on the latest safety protocols, while collaborative efforts between scientists, regulators, and oyster farmers drive continuous improvement. These partnerships have led to the development of best practices that are now being adopted worldwide. Beyond processing and handling, oyster farmers are adopting innovative aquaculture techniques. Suspended cage systems, for example, keep oysters off the seafloor, reducing their exposure to sediment and bacteria. These floating systems also allow for better water circulation and easier monitoring of environmental conditions. Scientific advances in selective breeding are producing oyster strains that are more resilient to heat and disease. Researchers are identifying genetic markers for resistance to Vibrio and other pathogens, enabling the cultivation of hardier oyster populations that can thrive in changing ocean conditions. The convergence of traditional knowledge and cutting-edge science is redefining what it means to farm and enjoy oysters. By embracing rigorous safety standards, leveraging technological innovation, and fostering a culture of transparency and accountability, the industry is not only safeguarding public health but also ensuring the survival of a centuries-old culinary tradition in the face of a rapidly changing world. There was a time, not so long ago, when the Atlantic cod reigned supreme in the cold, rich waters of the North Atlantic. For centuries, these fish gathered in such vast numbers that early explorers and fishermen claimed you could lower a basket and pull it up brimming with cod, or even walk across their backs from ship to shore. The cod was more than just a fish. It was a living legend, woven into the very fabric of coastal life. Known as the white gold of the ocean, the Atlantic cod's mild, flaky flesh became a staple food for millions. Its abundance fueled the rise of entire economies, from the bustling fish markets of Boston and New York to the small windswept villages of Newfoundland and Labrador. Cod was not just a meal, it was a currency, a commodity that built fortunes and shaped the destinies of nations. For generations, fishing fleets from New England to Newfoundland set out before dawn, braving icy winds and treacherous seas. Their wooden boats, later replaced by steel trawlers, returned heavy with the day's catch. Cod fishing was a way of life, passed down from father to son, a tradition that defined entire communities. Ports like Gloucester, Massachusetts, and St. John's, Newfoundland, thrived on the cod trade. Docks bustled with activity as fishermen unloaded their catch, merchants haggled over prices, and families gathered to share in the bounty. Cod was the lifeblood of these towns, supporting not only fishermen, but also shipbuilders, processors, and countless others. The cod's influence reached far beyond the docks. It was a symbol of prosperity, a staple on dinner tables from Boston to Baltimore, and a source of pride for coastal families. The fish even played a role in shaping the culture and identity of entire regions, inspiring art, folklore, and local traditions. But today, the throne of the cod king stands empty. The once mighty schools have dwindled to a shadow of their former selves, and the echoes of bustling harbors have faded into silence. Over the past 30 years, the Atlantic cod population has suffered a catastrophic collapse. Once teeming fishing grounds are now eerily barren, and the cod has all but vanished from many of its historic haunts. The scale of this decline is almost unimaginable. a biological disaster that unfolded in plain sight. In the waters off New England, cod stocks have plummeted by more than 90% in just 2 decades. The numbers are stark, but behind them lies a story of lost livelihoods, broken communities, and a vanishing way of life. Across the North Atlantic, the cod population has shrunk by a staggering 70%. Where once there were clouds of fish, now there are only scattered survivors, struggling to persist in a changed world. The consequences have been devastating. Once bustling fishing ports now stand quiet, their fleets rusting at the docks. The hum of industry has been replaced by the silence of loss. The economic impact has been severe. In just 2 years, the collapse of the cod fishery cost the American industry over $2 billion. Processing plants closed, jobs vanished, and entire towns were left searching for a new purpose. The ripple effects spread far beyond the coast, affecting suppliers, transporters, and local businesses. The story of the cod's disappearance is a cautionary tale, a stark warning about the dangers of unchecked human ambition and the fragility of the natural world. It is a lesson written in the empty nets and abandoned harbors of the Atlantic coast. For decades, the primary culprit was relentless overfishing. As technology advanced, fishing vessels grew larger and more efficient, equipped with powerful engines and massive nets that could sweep entire schools from the sea in a single haul. Sonar and radar made it easier than ever to locate fish, and the race to harvest cod became a technological arms race. The cod's natural ability to reproduce simply couldn't keep up with the scale of human extraction. Generations of cod were caught before they could spawn, disrupting the delicate balance of the population. The removal of so many young fish undermined the species' ability to recover, leading to a slow-motion collapse that many failed to recognize until it was too late. Efforts to regulate the fishery often came too late, or were too weak to make a difference. Quotas were set too high, enforcement was lax, and the warnings of scientists went unheeded. The tragedy of the commons played out in real time, with each boat chasing a dwindling prize. We took too much, too fast, for too long. The cod fishery, once thought inexhaustible, was pushed to the brink of extinction by human hands. Today, the legacy of overfishing is compounded by a new and formidable threat: climate change. Rising ocean temperatures are altering the very environment that cod depend on, making recovery even more difficult. The Gulf of Maine, once a stronghold for cod, is now warming faster than 99% of the world's oceans. This rapid change is disrupting the food web, shifting prey species, and making traditional spawning grounds inhospitable. The cod are forced to adapt to a world in flux. As their habitat changes, they must compete with new species, face unfamiliar predators, and search for food in ever-shifting waters. Many cod are now migrating into deeper, cooler waters, abandoning the coastal shallows where they once thrived. This migration disrupts their breeding cycles and separates them from the habitats they need to survive. The very foundation of their world is shifting beneath them. The combination of overfishing and climate change has created a perfect storm, making the path to recovery steep and uncertain. Today, the Atlantic cod lingers as a ghost in the waters it once ruled. Its story is a sobering reminder of how quickly abundance can turn to scarcity, and how the choices we make, ecological, economic, and social, can shape the fate of an entire species and the communities that depend on it. The disappearance of the Atlantic cod is a story of ecological collapse, economic upheaval, and policy missteps, a cautionary tale that unfolded over decades, shaped by a complex web of human actions and environmental changes. The cod's vanishing act was not triggered by a single event, but by a relentless convergence of pressures that ultimately overwhelmed one of the world's most iconic fish species. At the heart of this crisis lies overfishing, a practice that began centuries ago when European settlers first arrived on the shores of North America, the cod seemed inexhaustible, and for generations, fishing communities thrived on the seemingly endless bounty. By the 20th century, however, the scale of fishing had grown exponentially, fueled by technological advances and a global appetite for seafood. For decades, the prevailing belief was that the ocean's resources were limitless. This mindset led to aggressive fishing practices, with little regard for the long-term health of cod populations. The introduction of industrial trawlers and advanced sonar technology allowed fleets to locate and harvest cod with unprecedented efficiency. Trawlers, equipped with nets the size of football fields, scoured the ocean floor, capturing not only mature cod, but also countless juveniles and non-target species. This indiscriminate harvesting devastated the population's ability to replenish itself, as young cod were removed before they could reproduce. The result was a systematic and dramatic decline in cod numbers. Even as catches dwindled, fishing continued at unsustainable levels, driven by economic pressures and the absence of effective regulation. By the time quotas and moratoriums were introduced, the damage was already profound. But overfishing was only part of the story. As the cod struggled to recover, another force emerged: climate change. The warming of the world's oceans, particularly in the Gulf of Maine, has become a powerful and persistent threat to the species' survival. In the Gulf of Maine, ocean temperatures have risen faster than almost anywhere else on the planet. A seemingly modest increase of just 1 degree Celsius has had profound consequences for the entire marine ecosystem. This warming has disrupted the food web that cod depend on. The tiny crustaceans, plankton, and small fish that form the base of the cod's diet are shifting their ranges or declining in abundance, leaving young cod with fewer resources to survive and grow. Juvenile cod, in particular, face a food scarcity crisis. As their prey moves to cooler waters or disappears altogether, the next generation of cod is left vulnerable and malnourished, further reducing the population's ability to rebound. Meanwhile, the warming waters have become more hospitable to other species such as herring and mackerel. These newcomers not only compete with cod for food, but in some cases prey on cod eggs and juveniles, compounding the pressure on the struggling population. The cod are now trapped in a vice, squeezed from below by a lack of food, and from the sides by increased competition and predation. Their ecological niche is shrinking, and their ability to adapt is being tested as never before. The warming ocean has also disrupted the cod's life cycle. Cod are cold water fish, finely tuned to specific temperature ranges for spawning and development. As surface waters heat up, the conditions necessary for successful reproduction are disappearing. Physiologically, cod are stressed by higher temperatures. Their metabolism speeds up, increasing their need for food at a time when food is scarce. Many are forced to expend more energy just to survive, leaving less for growth and reproduction. In search of cooler waters, cod are retreating to deeper, darker parts of the ocean. This migration fragments their populations, isolates them from traditional spawning grounds, and makes it even harder for them to find mates and reproduce successfully. As a result, successful reproduction has become increasingly rare. Cod larvae, which are especially sensitive to temperature changes, now face much lower survival rates in the warmer surface waters. The very environment that once nurtured the cod has become hostile, actively working against their efforts to rebuild their numbers. The ecosystem has shifted, and the cod are no longer at the center of it. Today, the marine ecosystem of the North Atlantic has entered a new phase, dominated by species better adapted to the changing conditions. The cod's former dominance has been replaced by a patchwork of new competitors and predators. As if these biological and environmental pressures were not enough, recent geopolitical events have added another layer of disruption. The conflict in Ukraine in 2022 sent shockwaves through the global seafood supply chain. The United States, once a powerhouse of cod fishing, had become heavily reliant on imports to satisfy its demand. Over 20% of its cod supply came from Russia, a country now embroiled in conflict and subject to international sanctions. Overnight sanctions and trade disruptions cut off this vital source, causing prices for cod to soar and leaving American consumers and businesses scrambling for alternatives. The sudden market shock exposed the vulnerability of a system built on depleted domestic stocks and heavy reliance on foreign imports. The American cod industry, already weakened by decades of overfishing and environmental change, was pushed to the brink. For the fishing communities that once depended on cod, the consequences have been devastating. Jobs have vanished, traditions have faded, and the future remains uncertain. The story of the Atlantic cod is a stark reminder of what happens when ecological limits are ignored and when policy fails to keep pace with science and reality. Despite the bleak outlook for the Atlantic cod, a dedicated coalition of scientists, fishermen, and conservationists refuses to give up. Their mission is nothing short of monumental: to restore a species that once defined the North Atlantic, but whose numbers have plummeted to historic lows. The fight to bring back cod is a story of innovation, resilience, and hope, one that unfolds across laboratories, fishing docks, and the open sea. All along the North Atlantic coast, from the icy waters of Newfoundland to the rugged shores of New England, teams are working tirelessly to give this iconic species a fighting chance at recovery. These efforts are as diverse as the people involved, ranging from grassroots community projects to large-scale scientific initiatives funded by governments and international organizations. There is a growing belief that with human ingenuity and a deep respect for the ocean's complexity, the tide can be turned. But the challenges are immense. Overfishing, climate change, and habitat degradation have all contributed to the cod's decline, and reversing these trends requires a multifaceted approach. This fight is not just about saving a fish, it is about restoring a vital piece of our ecological and cultural heritage. Cod once supported entire communities, shaped regional cuisines, and played a central role in the economies of countless coastal towns. Its loss has left a void that is felt far beyond the water's edge. Hope is being cultivated in laboratories, tested in the open ocean, and built upon a new foundation of collaboration between former adversaries. Scientists and fishermen who once stood on opposite sides of the debate are now working side by side, united by a common goal. One of the most promising strategies is the use of aquaculture to raise cod in captivity. In state-of-the-art hatcheries, scientists carefully control water temperature, salinity, and nutrition to optimize the survival of cod eggs and larvae. These controlled environments shield the young fish from predators and disease, dramatically increasing their chances of reaching maturity. In specialized laboratories, scientists are nurturing cod from eggs to juvenile fish, known as cod pups. Each stage of development is meticulously monitored, with researchers tracking growth rates, genetic diversity, and resistance to disease. This level of care is essential, as even minor setbacks can have major consequences for the fragile population. These young cod are raised in controlled environments that protect them from the predators and harsh conditions they would face in the wild during their most vulnerable stage of life. Once they reach a certain size, they are gradually acclimated to ocean conditions in preparation for release. Before they are released, many of these pups are fitted with tiny tracking chips. These devices are a cornerstone of modern fisheries science, allowing researchers to follow the cod as they navigate the vast and unpredictable ocean. The data collected from these tags is invaluable. Scientists can monitor the cod's movements, survival rates, and habitat choices, providing critical insights into which areas offer the best chances for survival. This information guides future restoration strategies and helps identify the safest places for them to grow. This mission for recovery has forged an unlikely and powerful alliance between scientists and fishermen. The same fishermen who once harvested the cod are now using their unparalleled knowledge of the sea to help save it. Their expertise is invaluable. Fishermen know the hidden contours of the ocean floor, the subtle shifts in currents, and the seasonal rhythms of the sea. They guide researchers to historical cod habitats and help deploy sophisticated deep-sea monitoring equipment. Together, they embark on scientific expeditions, mapping the changing ocean floor, testing new, more selective fishing gear, and monitoring the ecosystem's health. This collaboration is essential as it combines generations of on-the-water experience with cutting-edge scientific methods. In one notable case study, a partnership in the Gulf of Maine has led to the development of new trawl nets that dramatically reduce bycatch, allowing cod populations to recover while still supporting local fisheries. In Newfoundland, community-led monitoring programs have empowered local residents to take an active role in conservation, blending traditional knowledge with modern science. These teams are also using sonar and underwater drones to map cod spawning grounds and track changes in the ocean environment. By understanding where cod are most likely to thrive, they can focus restoration efforts where they will have the greatest impact. While the road to a full recovery is long and uncertain, small but significant signs of progress are beginning to emerge. In some areas, juvenile cod are being spotted in numbers not seen in decades, a testament to the effectiveness of these combined efforts. Off the coast of Newfoundland, where the cod collapse was first and most famously documented, researchers have observed a modest but encouraging rebound in population numbers in certain areas. In the Barents Sea, strict quotas and international cooperation have led to one of the world's most successful cod recoveries, offering a blueprint for other regions. Scientists are also experimenting with integrated farming techniques, such as growing seaweed alongside cod habitats to improve water quality and restore balance to the local ecosystem. These innovative approaches not only benefit cod, but also support a wider range of marine life, creating healthier, more resilient oceans. The future remains uncertain, and many challenges lie ahead. Climate change continues to alter ocean temperatures and currents, introducing new threats to cod survival. But these glimmers of hope, born from tireless effort and a newfound spirit of cooperation, suggest that the ghost of the Grand Banks might one day swim freely in our oceans again. If these efforts continue and expand, the story of the Atlantic cod could become one of the world's greatest conservation comebacks. Beyond the well-charted waters of oyster beds and cod fisheries, a far more unpredictable and dangerous pursuit unfolds, one that tests the limits of human endurance and ingenuity, the hunt for octopus. This is a world where the ocean's temperament can shift in an instant, and where every decision can mean the difference between fortune and disaster. The men and women who embark on these expeditions are not ordinary fishermen. They are seasoned mariners, hardened by years at sea, drawn by the promise of a catch that can transform their lives. The hunt for octopus is not for the faint of heart. It demands courage, skill, and a willingness to face the unknown. Each trip is a coordinated effort, with every crew member playing a vital role. The work is grueling, hauling heavy nets, managing intricate lines, and maintaining equipment in the relentless salt and spray. The dangers are ever present, from sudden squalls to the crushing weight of gear shifting on a rolling deck. When fortune smiles, a single haul can yield up to 6 tons, over 13,000 pounds, of octopus, their tentacles twisting in the morning light. Such a bounty is rare, but it is this possibility that keeps crews returning to the sea season after season. The financial stakes are enormous. A successful trip can bring in nearly $900,000, with the catch destined for the world's most discerning markets, Japan, South Korea, and Europe, where octopus is a prized delicacy. But the ocean is a merciless adversary. The lure of a life-changing payday draws crews into waters where storms can rise without warning and where the margin for error is razor-thin. The open sea is both a provider and a punisher. The risks are not abstract. They are immediate and visceral. Every member of the crew is acutely aware that a single misstep can have fatal consequences. The techniques used in octopus fishing are as varied as the environments in which these elusive creatures hide. Some crews deploy hundreds of specialized pots, heavy, baited traps designed to lure octopuses from their rocky dens. Others rely on deep-sea divers who brave frigid, turbulent waters to search for octopus by hand, feeling for the subtle signs of their presence among rocks and crevices. A sudden storm can transform a routine day into a desperate fight for survival. Far from shore, with no hope of immediate rescue, the crew must rely on their training, their instincts, and each other. The physical demands are relentless. Long hours of heavy lifting, constant exposure to the elements, and the ever-present threat of injury or exhaustion take a toll on even the most experienced fishermen. Every journey is a gamble, a delicate balance between the promise of immense profit and the unpredictable fury of the sea. The ocean's rewards are great, but so are its dangers. The hunt itself is a test of patience and perception. Octopuses are not easily found. They are masters of disguise, blending seamlessly with their surroundings and often leaving only the faintest clues to their presence. These remarkable animals possess an intelligence that rivals that of many mammals. They can solve puzzles, open jars, and escape from seemingly secure enclosures. Their boneless bodies allow them to squeeze into the tiniest crevices, making them exceptionally difficult to catch. Success depends on a deep understanding of octopus behavior and habitat. Fishermen study the seafloor's contours, the seasonal migrations of their prey, and the subtle cues that signal an octopus's hiding place. Techniques are refined over decades, passed down through families and communities. Modern technology has become an essential tool. Sonar and GPS help crews map the ocean floor, identify promising habitats, and track the shifting patterns of octopus populations. Yet even with these advances, intuition and experience remain irreplaceable. Each encounter is a contest of wits, a silent duel between hunter and hunted. The octopus's intelligence and adaptability make every catch a hard-won victory, a testament to the skill and perseverance of the crew. The global appetite for octopus is insatiable. Its tender, flavorful meat is celebrated in cuisines from the Mediterranean to East Asia, featured in everything from Spanish pulpo a la gallega to Japanese sashimi and sushi, but only the highest quality specimens command top prices. The catch must be handled with extraordinary care. Any damage or delay can diminish its value. The work does not end when the octopus is brought aboard. The crew must process and preserve the catch immediately, ensuring it remains fresh and pristine for its journey to market. Chilling begins the moment the octopus leaves the water. Iced and stored in carefully controlled conditions, the catch is protected from spoilage, preserving both its flavor and its value. The journey from the depths of the ocean to the world's finest kitchens is a race against time, requiring meticulous attention at every stage. Each octopus that reaches a gourmet table is the result of extraordinary effort, skill, and risk. Yet, the hunt for octopus is not just a story of human ambition. These creatures play a vital role in marine ecosystems, acting as both predator and prey. Their presence helps maintain the balance of ocean life, and their intelligence continues to fascinate scientists and conservationists alike. As demand grows, so does the need for sustainable practices. Responsible fishermen and researchers are working together to ensure that octopus populations remain healthy, using quotas, seasonal closures, and selective gear to minimize impact on the environment. The perilous hunt for octopus is a testament to human resilience and ingenuity, but also a reminder of our responsibility to the ocean. For those who risk everything on these waters, each journey is a story of hope, hardship, and respect for the mysterious world beneath the waves. The journey of preserving octopus begins the instant it leaves the ocean's embrace and lands on the deck of a fishing vessel. This is not merely a matter of keeping seafood cold. It's a delicate dance of tradition, science, and respect for a creature that has been prized for centuries across cultures. The value of the catch is determined by its freshness, but the art of preservation goes far beyond speed. Every movement, from the way the octopus is handled to the temperature it is exposed to, can influence its texture, flavor, and even its cultural significance. The first step in modern preservation is immediate refrigeration. As soon as the octopus is brought aboard, it is swiftly transferred to chilled storage, halting the natural processes that would otherwise begin to break down its delicate flesh. Traditionally, fishermen would use nothing more than cool seawater and shade, but today, ice slurries and refrigerated holds are employed to rapidly lower the octopus's body temperature. This not only preserves its freshness, but also honors the centuries-old wisdom of keeping the catch cool and moist. This rapid chilling is crucial. It slows the enzymatic reactions that cause the flesh to soften and lose its prized firmness. The result is an octopus with a texture and flavor that chefs and gourmets around the world revere. This initial cooling is the foundation of the preservation process, setting the stage for every step that follows on the journey from sea to table. Once the vessel docks, the octopus is rushed to specialized processing facilities. Here, the art of preservation becomes a blend of ancient ritual and cutting-edge technology. Skilled workers, often drawing on generations of experience, clean and sort the catch with remarkable precision. In some cultures, this process is almost ceremonial, reflecting a deep respect for the animal and the sea. Each octopus is carefully eviscerated, with the ink sac and internal organs removed by hand. This is a delicate task. One wrong move can damage the mantle or arms, reducing both the value and the culinary potential of the catch. The octopuses are then sorted by size and quality. In Japan, for example, certain grades are reserved for sushi and sashimi, while others are destined for Mediterranean stews or Spanish tapas. Each market has its own standards shaped by tradition and taste. This stage is a blend of artistry and efficiency, where every octopus is inspected for quality. In some regions, traditional methods like massaging or tenderizing the flesh are still practiced, believed to enhance texture and flavor. After cleaning and sorting, the octopus is prepared for its final journey. Some are destined to be sold raw, while others undergo further processing to meet the expectations of different cuisines. Blanching is a common step, especially for octopus bound for Asian and Mediterranean markets. The octopus is briefly immersed in boiling water, then shocked in ice water. This not only sets the color and firms the flesh, but also pays homage to traditional methods used for generations in coastal villages. The transformation is immediate and dramatic. The flesh turns a vibrant hue, and the texture becomes tender yet resilient, ready for everything from sushi to grilled delicacies. The final and most critical step in modern preservation is deep freezing. This is where science takes center stage. Using IQF, individually quick frozen technology, each octopus is frozen at temperatures as low as -40 degrees Celsius. This method, developed in the 20th century, revolutionized seafood preservation by preventing the formation of large ice crystals that can rupture cell walls and ruin texture. The result is a product that, when thawed, retains the taste, texture, and appearance of a freshly caught octopus. This is essential for dishes like sashimi, where the quality of the raw ingredient is paramount. From the moment it is caught to the instant it is plated, the octopus passes through a chain of care and expertise. Each link in this chain, chilling, cleaning, blanching, freezing, reflects both the wisdom of tradition and the precision of modern science. The global seafood market demands nothing less. Advanced machinery and rigorous standards ensure that every octopus meets the expectations of chefs and diners from Tokyo to Barcelona. Yet, the story of preservation is also a story of culture and resilience. For the fishermen who brave the open ocean, and for the communities that have relied on octopus for generations, these methods are a way of honoring both the animal and the sea itself. Ultimately, the art and science of preserving octopus is about more than just food. It is a bridge connecting the hard work of fishermen, the ingenuity of processors, and the culinary traditions of cultures around the world, all culminating in a single unforgettable bite. The stories of the oyster, the cod, and the octopus are not just tales of individual species, but windows into the complex, interconnected world of our oceans. These creatures reveal the immense bounty and delicate balance of marine ecosystems, and they remind us that every action we take, whether as consumers, policymakers, or innovators, ripples through the blue heart of our planet. As climate change accelerates, warming waters are altering habitats and enabling the spread of harmful bacteria, threatening both marine life and human health. Overfishing and habitat destruction have already led to the collapse of once thriving fish stocks, while pollution and unsustainable practices continue to erode the resilience of our seas. Yet, within these challenges lies an opportunity, a chance to reimagine our relationship with the ocean and chart a new course for the future. The decline of fisheries and the loss of marine biodiversity are stark warnings, but they also serve as catalysts for change. To safeguard the seas for tomorrow, we must embrace a multifaceted approach that combines science, policy, technology, and community action. First, robust scientific research is essential. We need to invest in long-term monitoring of ocean health, tracking everything from water temperature and acidity to the spread of pathogens and the status of key species. This data will inform adaptive management strategies, allowing us to respond quickly to emerging threats and to measure the effectiveness of conservation efforts. As consumers, we wield significant influence. By choosing seafood from certified sustainable sources, we can drive demand for responsible fisheries and aquaculture. Look for labels such as MSC, ASC, or Best Aquaculture Practices, and don't hesitate to ask questions about the origin and methods behind your seafood. Supporting local, small-scale fishers who use selective gear and low-impact techniques can also help protect vulnerable species and habitats. At the market or restaurant, inquire about traceability. Where was this fish caught? Was it farmed or wild? What steps were taken to ensure its safety and sustainability? These questions not only inform your choices, but also encourage businesses to prioritize transparency and responsible sourcing. On the production side, the future of sustainable seafood lies in innovation. Aquaculture, when managed responsibly, can relieve pressure on wild stocks and provide a reliable source of protein. New technologies such as recirculating aquaculture systems, integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, and selective breeding for disease resistance are making fish and shellfish farming more efficient and less polluting. Embracing digital traceability tools like blockchain and QR codes can help track seafood from ocean to plate, reducing fraud and ensuring that sustainability claims are verifiable. Supporting products with clear certifications and transparent supply chains creates a market incentive for best practices, rewarding those who prioritize the health of the ocean and the welfare of workers. Restoration projects are another vital strategy. Rebuilding oyster reefs, seagrass beds, and mangrove forests not only provides habitat for marine life, but also improves water quality and buffers coastlines against storms. Releasing hatchery-raised fish, like cod, into carefully managed recovery zones can help revive depleted populations, but must be paired with strict monitoring to avoid unintended ecological impacts. Policy plays a crucial role. Governments should enact science-based catch limits, protect critical habitats, and enforce regulations against illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. Investing in early warning systems for harmful algal blooms and bacterial outbreaks can help protect both public health and the seafood industry. International cooperation is essential, as ocean currents and migratory species cross borders, requiring shared stewardship and data exchange. Fishermen and industry leaders must adopt selective fishing gear and bycatch reduction devices, minimizing harm to non-target species and sensitive habitats. Transitioning to low-carbon vessels and reducing plastic waste at sea are also critical steps toward a cleaner, more resilient ocean. Policymakers should incentivize innovation through grants, tax credits, and public-private partnerships that support sustainable seafood production, research, and restoration. Strengthening enforcement and closing loopholes in environmental regulations will ensure that progress is real and lasting. The seafood industry itself must invest in cleaner processing technologies, reduce water and energy use, and ensure fair labor practices throughout the supply chain. Collaboration between scientists, industry, and communities can accelerate the adoption of best practices and foster a culture of continuous improvement. Ultimately, safeguarding the seas for tomorrow requires a shared commitment, one that spans from the research lab to the fishing boat, from the halls of government to the family dinner table. We must learn to harvest the ocean's gifts without undermining the very systems that sustain them. By championing safe, transparent, and responsible seafood practices, supporting science-based policies, and embracing technological innovation, we can ensure that the ocean's bounty endures for generations to come. The future of our oceans, and of all who depend on them, rests in our hands. Let us rise to the challenge, working together to preserve the magnificent web of life that makes our planet truly blue. Gap 2s. Beyond the waves and beneath the surface, the stories of oysters and cod are deeply entwined with the fortunes of coastal communities. Over centuries, these species have not only nourished millions, but also shaped the economic lifeblood of towns and villages along America's shorelines. Gap 2s. Oyster farming, once a modest trade, now anchors local economies from the Chesapeake Bay to the Pacific Northwest. Families pass down knowledge and skills through generations, while small businesses support a thriving network of jobs, from hatcheries and harvesters to shuckers and distributors. Festivals and seafood markets breathe life into waterfronts, drawing visitors eager to taste the ocean's freshest flavors and support local producers. Gap 2s. Similarly, the cod fishery has long been a pillar of Atlantic coastal life. Boats setting out at dawn, bustling docks, and the hum of processing plants once defined the rhythm of entire regions. When cod stocks collapsed, the economic shock rippled through these communities, leading to job losses, shuttered businesses, and a profound sense of loss. For many, the sea was more than a workplace, it was an identity. Gap 2s. Today, the resurgence of sustainable practices offers hope. Investments in oyster reef restoration and responsible aquaculture are creating new opportunities, while efforts to rebuild cod populations promise a gradual return of jobs and stability. Local economies are diversifying, with ecotourism, value-added seafood products, and marine research fueling fresh growth. Gap 2s. Yet challenges remain. Climate change, regulatory shifts, and global competition continue to test the resilience of coastal livelihoods. Supporting these communities means not only protecting marine resources, but also investing in education, innovation, and infrastructure. Gap 2s. As we savor oysters on the half shell or enjoy a flaky cod fillet, we become part of a larger story, one where every choice helps sustain the people and places that keep our ocean heritage alive. In safeguarding the seas, we also secure the future of those who call the coast home. Gap 2s. As the tides ebb and flow, another powerful force is reshaping America's coasts: climate change. Invisible yet relentless, its impact is transforming the very fabric of marine biodiversity, from the warmth of southern bays to the chill of northern waters. Gap 2s. Rising ocean temperatures are pushing many species beyond their traditional ranges. Oysters, once abundant in cooler waters, now face new threats from heat stress and altered salinity, while once rare southern species are appearing further north. Gap 2s. Acidifying seas driven by increased carbon dioxide make it harder for shellfish to build their protective homes. Coral reefs, vital nurseries for countless fish, are bleaching and kelp forests are thinning, leaving fewer safe havens for marine life. Gap 2s. Changing currents and unpredictable weather patterns disrupt spawning cycles and migration routes. Cod, for example, struggle to find the cold, oxygen-rich waters they need, while octopus and other cephalopods may flourish in warming seas, shifting the balance of underwater ecosystems. Gap 2s. Even the smallest creatures, like plankton, are affected, altering the entire food web that supports both sea and shore. Gap 2s. But amid uncertainty, resilience and adaptation emerge. Scientists use underwater sensors and satellite data to track changes in real time, while communities experiment with climate-smart aquaculture and habitat restoration. Gap 2s. The story of marine life along America's coasts is no longer just about the past. It's a race to understand and respond to a changing ocean, ensuring that biodiversity thrives for generations to come. Beneath the ocean's surface, a quiet revolution is underway, driven not by nets or boats but by technology. Today, sustainable seafood harvesting is being transformed by innovations that protect both marine life and coastal livelihoods. Automated underwater drones glide silently along oyster reefs and kelp forests, monitoring water quality and mapping habitats without disturbing delicate ecosystems. Smart sensors track the growth and health of shellfish in real time, alerting farmers to subtle changes in temperature, salinity, and pollution, allowing for rapid response before problems escalate. On open waters, GPS-guided fishing vessels use sonar and artificial intelligence to target only abundant species and avoid bycatch, dramatically reducing waste and protecting at-risk populations. Blockchain technology now traces seafood from ocean to table, ensuring transparency and building trust that every catch is legal and sustainable. In aquaculture, floating fish pens are engineered to harness ocean currents, reducing disease and the need for antibiotics. Some farms even deploy robotic arms to gently harvest oysters and mussels, minimizing damage to the seafloor. These innovations, unseen but powerful, are redefining how seafood is harvested and shared. By blending tradition with technology, America's coasts are charting a new course toward abundance, resilience, and harmony with the sea. Beneath the rolling waves and hidden from the bustle of the coast, silent sanctuaries are at work, marine protected areas, or MPAs. These underwater reserves are vital refuges where oyster reefs and cod populations find the space to recover and thrive, shielded from the pressures of overfishing and habitat destruction. Inside an MPA, oyster beds are left undisturbed, allowing them to filter water, build reefs, and spawn new generations. Cod, once depleted by decades of fishing, return to these safe havens to breed and grow, their numbers slowly rebuilding in the absence of nets and hooks. Animated maps reveal vibrant patches of protected waters along America's shores, each a stronghold for biodiversity and a promise for the future. Remote cameras capture teeming life, juvenile cod weaving through kelp forests, oysters clustering in dense living armor. These scenes play out in silence, but their impact echoes far beyond the boundaries. As populations rebound within protected zones, they spill over into surrounding waters, strengthening fisheries and supporting coastal communities. By setting aside these underwater parks, we invest in nature's own power to restore balance. Marine protected areas are not just lines on a map. They are living guardians of the sea, ensuring that oysters, cod, and countless other creatures have a future in our changing world. As wild fish stocks struggle to keep pace with global appetites, a new frontier is emerging beneath the water's surface: aquaculture. Today, innovative underwater farms stretch across sheltered bays and coastal inlets, cultivating oysters, mussels, seaweed, and even finfish, quietly revolutionizing how we produce seafood. Infographics glide across the screen, illustrating how aquaculture already supplies over half of the world's seafood. Drone shots soar above tidy arrays of oyster baskets and floating fish pens, each a testament to human ingenuity and adaptation. Animated diagrams highlight closed-loop systems that recycle water and nutrients, while underwater cameras reveal schools of fish gliding through carefully managed enclosures. But the future of aquaculture promises even more. Scientists and entrepreneurs are developing eco-friendly feeds, integrated multi-species farms, and offshore platforms that harness the power of the open ocean. In these next-generation systems, waste from one species becomes food for another, mimicking the balance of natural ecosystems and minimizing environmental impact. A digital timeline animates potential breakthroughs. Selective breeding for disease resistance, seaweed farms that absorb carbon, and shellfish operations that purify the water around them. Each innovation brings us closer to a world where sustainable seafood is abundant, affordable, and accessible to all. The path is not without challenges. Disease, pollution, and habitat concerns demand vigilance and smart regulation, but with careful stewardship, aquaculture stands poised to bridge the gap between ocean conservation and the growing demand for healthy protein. As the scene closes, we glimpse a future where farms and fisheries thrive side by side, nourishing both people and the planet. Proof that the next chapter of seafood can be written with sustainability at its heart. Beneath the surface, not all changes are born from human innovation. Some arrive uninvited. In recent decades, invasive species have quietly infiltrated the habitats of oysters and cod, reshaping the underwater world in ways both subtle and dramatic. Animated maps illuminate the spread of green crabs, lionfish, and Japanese shore crabs, their migration lines threading through coastal waters once dominated by native species. Infographics reveal how these newcomers outcompete oysters for food and space, while underwater footage shows dense mats of invasive algae choking out precious oyster beds. For cod, the threat is equally dire. Swarms of invasive jellyfish pulse through the water, disrupting the food web and devouring the larvae cod depend on for survival. A sequence of time-lapse animations demonstrates how a single invasive species can alter entire ecosystems, filtering out plankton, eroding seagrass beds, and even changing the chemistry of the water itself. Solutions are emerging, but none are simple. Graphics highlight early detection networks, targeted removals, and the introduction of natural predators, each a tool in the ongoing battle to protect native habitats. As the scene closes, a ripple of uncertainty lingers. The fight against invasive species is a race against time, demanding vigilance and adaptability. Only by understanding and confronting these invisible invaders can we hope to safeguard the delicate balance that oysters and cod and countless other creatures depend on for survival. While scientists and conservationists work tirelessly beneath the waves, the fate of our oceans also rests above the surface, in the hearts and minds of everyday people. Public awareness and education are the invisible currents that can shift the tide for oysters, cod, and all marine life. Animated sequences show children exploring tide pools, digital billboards with striking ocean facts, and interactive exhibits glowing in coastal science centers. Infographics highlight how informed communities make better choices, reducing plastic use, supporting sustainable seafood, and volunteering for shoreline cleanups. A montage of animated social media posts and online petitions illustrates how digital voices can rally support for marine protected areas and influence policy changes. Education doesn't just inform, it inspires action. Animated stories follow a classroom adopting a local oyster reef, tracking its progress through virtual field trips and citizen science apps. In coastal towns, illustrated flyers flutter on notice boards, spreading word about invasive species and the small steps everyone can take to help. The ripple effect is powerful. One person's curiosity can spark a movement, turning awareness into advocacy and knowledge into lasting change. As the scene closes, a wave washes across the screen, reminding us that the more we learn, the more we can protect. The ocean's future depends not just on experts but on all of us, united by understanding and hope.